It's time to talk tech. Doesn't it seem like your iPhone always starts going dead a few hours after you take it off the charger? Of course, this happens to all of us who have the iPhone. So ABC7's webdoc, Peter Martin, is here with advice on how to extend the battery life of your iPhone and your iPad. Peter, thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you here.
I got an app.
So it's a huge problem. How do we solve it?
Well, the biggest problem that people have is they don't realize that when they open an application on their phone and they don't shut it down, it still runs in the background. And a lot of applications are running that are using GPS. So every time you've got an application that's up and running that's using GPS, it's constantly pinging out there and looking for, where you are, so it can then basically push that information to you. And that's one of the big problems because people don't realize that.
When you install one of those apps and it asks you, can it use your location, does that mean it's using your GPS?
Exactly, it's using your GPS. That's why you always want to say no.
That now.
That's correct. Well, like an app like Groupon wants to know where you're at so they can push the right offers to you. Yelp does the same thing because they want to make sure they're sending you the messages based upon where you are.
So how do you close those guys?
Well, it's very simple. You just go to your iPhone and then you double-click on, you double-click and it will change the bar so you can actually see what it looks like. And then you can see, now just pick any one of those little icons and you click on it and you'll see the little red circle with the lines. And then if you just press on it, it just shuts them down. And as you can see by John's phone, which I'm working with here today, John has a lot of apps open. And you literally just go through and just click on them, and they just shut them all down.
And even if you say open your calendar, and then you go off of your calendar, it doesn't mean that it may not be on your home screen, but it's running in the background.
It's running in the background.
Yes.
Last night on the plane flying back, I was telling the lady about the segment, and she was complaining about her phone, and I hit it, and she had like 40 or 50 apps. She couldn't believe how many apps she had on, and like 6 of them were all ones that were actually navigation ones. So if you were to go on a site and use like a GPS app, which a lot of people like to use these days, those are one of the worst because they are literally sending it more frequently because they're trying to help you navigate where you are in traffic.
So every time you use an app, you have to double-click to get rid of it?
Not every time, but I just do it a couple times a day.
A couple times a day.
Yeah.
Because I hardly ever reboot my phone, so I guess they would add up with time. Huh?
Exactly. And for those of us with kids, it's even worse because when your children get on there, like when my son gets on my phone, I get on there and my iPad's even worse because he's playing games on there. And all of those games that the kids are playing are all tied back to the GPS, and they're pushing information, they're constantly updating the game, and it becomes quite a drain on your battery.
And is that information true for all the various models of iPhone that are out there?
Definitely.
Really?
Definitely.
What about the iPad?
The iPad, the same thing, the same problem because it's pushing data back and forth. One of the things that I did want to point out is it's important with iPads and iPhones is that every month you should let the battery run all the way out. It's called life battery maintenance. And then you recharge it so it gets an actual full charge. And the other thing that's important with your iPhone, if you want to make it last longer, is you want to use the plug-in. Most people are making the mistake of charging their iPad using a USB port. Most USB ports don't have enough power to properly charge the devices, so you won't get a full charge, and it will eventually affect your battery life.
Yeah, I've noticed that if I try to use my iPhone charger on my iPad, I get not charging.
Exactly.
Well, wait a second. Yes, it is. What are you talking about?
Well, what happens is you're not getting enough power to it because it's not really set up for that device.
So even though they look the same, the iPad charger is very different than the iPhone charger?
Not very charges, just minor little changes there, and it goes back to the amount of power being pushed through, and that's why they always recommend that you actually use the wall charger. Get a better.
And the brightness is another thing. Turn down your brightness.
Exactly. You can set your screen settings so it'll automatically adjust, and that will also help your battery life.
Battery life a little bit. All right. Well, thank you, Peter, for those tips. And Peter, our ABC7 web doc, will be joining us every week with new and helpful tips. So if you have a question for our web doc, you can email him at webdoc@wwsb.com. Thanks for being with us. Have a great weekend. We'll be using those tips this weekend.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right.